Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of the Daily Gwei Refuel, where I recap the latest news in the Ethereum ecosystem. I'm your host, Anthony Sassano, and it's the 21st of March, 2023. Alright everyone, let's get into it. So apologies for missing yesterday's episode. I ran out of time to record, unfortunately, but back today, and hopefully this will be a longer episode to make up for it. So let's kick off something that was announced over the weekend, or I guess was leaked over the weekend. And I posted this to Twitter where I said, it seems Microsoft is adding a crypto wallet to their Edge browser. Now, there's 3 screenshots here that I shared on Twitter, and I got these from, I believe it was bleepingcomputer.com here, the article that I have up here of what this looks like. But I said crypto wallet in my tweet. It's actually an Ethereum wallet. I don't really see any other kind of support for other networks. It says Ethereum mainnet at the top as well, which is quite cool. I'm sure they'll add support for other networks as time goes on. But as far as I know, this isn't available right now. In Edge, like as a regular user. I think it's a beta build or just kind of some leak that someone came across. But this is very, very cool. It's funny. I posted this on Twitter, and some of the replies were like, too bad no one uses Edge. Microsoft Edge, which is a successor to Internet Explorer, of course. And the thing is that a lot of people do use Edge. There's I think about 10 or 12% of the total browser market that is using Edge, and Edge isn't actually a bad browser. Obviously, Internet Explorer wasn't great, but I've got Edge that I actually use for a few different things. Not regularly, of course. My regular browser is Chrome, as you can see, but it's fine. Like, I don't have any problems with it. It's quite lightweight. It works very well, and I think it's a bit of a meme that Edge is bad just because Internet Explorer was bad. So I just wanted to clear that up there. And I thought it was really cool that they were integrating a crypto wallet, because I know a lot of people that would use Edge probably wouldn't be into crypto, right, or into computers generally. They would probably be more of your, I guess, like quote unquote normie user, because they're using Edge, right? Like, that's why what I was saying, everyone was making fun of Edge before. They say, I only use Edge to download Chrome or Firefox, and I'm like, okay, those are the funny jokes that are carried over from Internet Explorer. I get it, but still, these are the kind of audiences that we want to be reaching, right? People who may not necessarily have ever done anything on chain. They've probably heard of crypto before. I mean, at this point, I think everyone's heard of crypto. Honestly, whether it be Bitcoin or Ethereum, I think that most people have heard of those two. But they've probably heard the crypto term because it's been in the news so much over the past several years, especially last year in the wake of things like the Terra collapse and the FTX collapse. I'm sure everyone knows what crypto is, but that doesn't really mean anything, right? Just because someone's aware of crypto doesn't really mean anything. And I've argued before that just because someone buys crypto on a centralized exchange doesn't really mean anything for adoption either. I mean, yeah, it's cool that more people are getting exposed to crypto and all that, but the problem is that they're not using on-chain products, right? And that's what we actually want. Like, that crypto is on-chain stuff to me. Crypto isn't just buying some I guess asset on an exchange and storing it there. For me, it's actually using the products that are being built. Now, how do you do that? Well, you need to get people to spin up their own wallet, right? You need to get people to take custody of their own funds. Obviously, there's been a lot of attempts at that over the years, and I think Microsoft doing this with Edge is just another one of those attempts, especially if they can make the wallet very easy to use, very streamlined, and people will trust it because it's from Microsoft, right? Rather than from some weird brand like MetaMask they've never heard of, for example, right? Or even Coinbase is a weird brand to a lot of people because it's not something that they trust. Even though Coinbase, I would say, is probably the most trusted brand in crypto, still, there is that kind of aversion there. Whereas Microsoft is a brand that everyone knows, obviously. Literally everyone knows Microsoft, right? They're huge. They've been around for a very long time. And as I said, about 10 to 12% of the browser market is using Edge right now. And I actually think that'll go up over time. Honestly, Chrome is okay. Like, as I said, I use Chrome. It's not the greatest thing. I'm just using it because I've been using it for so long and I don't really want to switch. Firefox, I've heard, is really great as well, which is fine. But Edge, as I've said, I've been using it a lot, and not a lot, but I've been using it from time to time, and it's never done me wrong. So might be something for you guys to check out as well. But anyway, very, very cool to see Microsoft integrating a crypto wallet into Edge. I think it's going to lead to a bunch of people being onboarded that otherwise wouldn't have been. All right, so I put out a tweet today where I was talking about how I'm currently managing a lot of different infrastructure for my staking setup, all from home. So I'm managing 4 different boxes right now. So there's my solo staking box, which is just for my personal ETH or my personal funds. I have another solo staking box, which is my Proteus, actually, the Proteus that was developed by Joe from Rocketpool. I actually didn't end up using that as a Rocketpool node. I reflashed the a new OS onto it, just the Ubuntu server onto it, and installed a solo staking setup on it. And I'm using that for my retirement account funds. Now, the way it works in Australia is if you have what's called a self-managed super fund, which is a self-managed retirement account, you have to have like an arm's length, relationship with the fund, which means that I can't actually commingle the funds. So I can't stake my retirement account ETH with my normal ETH because it's considered commingling. So I had to set up a whole new box that was bought with my retirement account funds for that, and I had to get a new ledger for it and everything. It's quite crazy actually the lengths you have to go to make sure that it's that arm's length kind of relationship there. But that's why that I've got two solo staking boxes there. And I guess I should also mention that my entire retirement account now is in ETH. That's why I've done it like this. It's all ETH right now. So I did that a few weeks ago actually. I finalized that, and that was pretty awesome. Just knowing that I've got full control over my retirement account now, and that it's all in ETH. The only asset that I think is long-term are going to be amazing, right? And it's going to outperform over the long term. So that felt great. And it's also obviously staked as part of this box that I have here. And then I also have my, obviously, Rocketpool box, which I run my Rocketpool mini pools on, and my ODAO. And I have recently added an archive node box, which I'm using for the tree generation or tree gen that is required of ODAO members. So I have an archive node box that's literally just for a Geth archive node. I'm not running anything else on there. That's all set up. I have, what is it? Well, I bought 16 terabytes of SSD space. I think it works out to about 14 terabytes of SSD space. That's running, I kind of joined them together. I don't know the technical terminology here. I had someone from the Sigma Prime team run me through how to do this, and that's running there. Now, it's not a full archive node. It's an archive node from when I synced Geth. So I synced Geth as a full node, and then from that point, it starts becoming an archive node. It doesn't actually, I haven't set it to the mode where it downloads all the historical states, because you don't need that for tree gen. You only need the recent states for tree gen. And to sync a full archive node would have taken a very long time. I think it can take upwards of a month because it's so large. It's about 12 terabytes. But an archive node, a full archive node, is not something that people actually need. Regular users will never need it. It's an infrastructure thing. And as I said, like, I'm only using it for the ODAO tree gen stuff, but I need it for that. Like, tree gen can't be completed without an archive node. And historically, I had been using Alchemy, but Alchemy didn't work last tree gen, and it just kind of fell over. So that's why I synced my own box here, as I said, with the help of a team member from Sigma Prime, but also a bunch of community members as well, help me with that. And that brings me on to the next point of my tweet, where I said, even though it has been somewhat frustrating to deal with at times, it's still been really fun to learn how to set all of this up and actively manage it myself. Big shout out to all of those who helped me with the technical troubleshooting. I couldn't have done it without you. So yeah, as I said, it's been frustrating at times because there are a lot of different things you need to do when you've got a setup like this. Like, if it was just a solo staking box, that's actually pretty straightforward and was probably the easiest thing. But there are a bunch of different things that I'm doing. Like, for example, my Rocketpool box is talking to my archive node box. And in order to do that, I need to make sure the correct ports are open. I need to make sure the firewall is configured correctly. I need to make sure that no connections are being refused. I need to test it all, right? And then for these other boxes, like my Rocketpool box, for example, it's actually quite straightforward as well, setting up the smart node, but making sure that's connected in the settings, making sure I've got fallback clients and everything like that. And sometimes I just hit a roadblock, especially around networking stuff. Networking stuff is... it's not fun at times, right? Because you never know if it's the actual box or if it's something in your actual network that you've misconfigured. Like, I have a network that I configured all myself. It's running all on Ubiquity here, and there is a lot going on my network. I have so many different things happening. It's just crazy. So diagnosing issues with that can be difficult at times. But as I said, it has been worth it, and I've had a lot of fun doing it. Now, in saying that, the reason why I'm highlighting this tweet as well is because I had a lot of great replies to this tweet from people that I replied to as well. But one of the great ones was this video that Radek shared here. So he is a developer advocate at QuickNode. Well, he's created a video here on how to basically set up your own solo staking operation. So a full video walkthrough. I think it's about 30 minutes from memory. If I click, yeah, it's about 30 minutes here that you can watch. Of course, I'll link it in the YouTube description below. But a lot of people were asking me for guides on how I did all of this. Honestly, honestly, guys, like you don't need, and they're asking me to write a guide. I'm like, you don't need me to write a guide. Like there are so many guides out there right now. As I've mentioned before, Summer ESAT, Somer, is his first name, last name ESAT. If you Google that with like Medium, his Medium blog, you'll find guides there that are very detailed. Coin Cashew has a lot of guides as well. The Rocketpool docs are amazing. You can just use those. And for running an archive node, as I said, it's not something that a regular user will ever do. But if you're a power user, I'm sure you'll figure out how to do that. But in terms of setting up your own solo staking box, it's actually very easy. I actually redid it recently. I don't know if I told you guys, because on my solo staking box, my SSD actually just died. And it's because it was the Samsung 980 Pro, which is known for dying unless you update the firmware. And I hadn't updated the firmware. So it kind of died. So I had to replace it anyway. And I got up and running within like less than, I think, 30 minutes. And I was using the Coin Cashew guide for that. And I basically set it up the way I had it before. It was all well and good. Re-imported my validators. And it was all fine. So obviously it took me less time because I've already done it before, but it is not complicated, guys. Like, yes, you have to use the command line. Yes, there are certain concepts that you'll have to learn, but it really is not a complex thing. You can pick it up rather quickly. And there are other solutions as well if you don't want to go through that. As I've mentioned before, there's Dapnode, there's that one-click staking solution. There's the Proteus as well, which will help you set up with Rocketpool. The Rocketpool Smart Node stack is actually super easy to use. It gives you a nice graphical interface. It's actually really hard to screw up the Rocketpool setting up a Rocketpool node. So anyway, you can check out this video from Radek here. But as I said, there are plenty of other guides out there. It doesn't require me to write a guide. And the way I've got my setup here wouldn't apply to pretty much everyone. Like there's very few people that would have the exact same setup as I have. And as I said before about the networking stuff, that kind of stuff is where it becomes unique because it just depends on the way your network is set up. It depends on what the way your firewall is set up. If you've got a firewall on the actual router interface, or maybe you've got your own firewall, you've set up a Raspberry Pi as your firewall. There's this thing called Pi-hole, which acts as a firewall and a DNS. You can set up your own custom DNS. If you've got all of that, it can complicate things. But if you're doing that, you're already a power user, so I don't think you'll have any issues setting up any of this stuff. But in terms of just noob-friendly stuff, Radek's video, the Coin Cashew guide, Summer ESAT's guides, Rocketpool Smart Node Stack, all that good stuff there will get you up and running, and you'll be totally fine. And if you need help, there's always help. The ETH Staker Discord is great for that. And if you need help with Rocketpool stuff, obviously the Rocketpool Discord. But generally, from my experience, having set up all these boxes, having synced many different nodes, and just done this a million times now, it's pretty straightforward, guys. Like as I said, it's hard to kind of screw it up. You have to actively be going out of your way to screw it up. There are times when things will fail because it's outside of your control. For example, my hardware failing, obviously, that was shitty. I had to have someone from the Rocketpool Discord channel try and troubleshoot it with me. I don't know if they want me to name them, so I'm not going to name them, but shout out to them for that. And they came to the conclusion, yeah, the SSD is dying, you need to replace it, and I did, and it's been all well and good since then. So there are those things that can happen, of course, and you work through them as they happen. But anyway, going to move on from that. But yeah, I'll link this video in the YouTube description below. Speaking of Rocketpool, Superfizz had a tweet about the Rocketpool Atlas upgrade, which is coming in mid-April. And he said, it will allow home node operators to run a validator with 8 ETH and 2.4 ETH in RPL tokens. The extra staking capacity is cool, but I'm really excited to see this opportunity open up new operators with less ETH. That's exactly why I'm super excited about this. As I've said before, guys, this will be the cheapest way to become essentially a solo staker on Ethereum, right? Obviously, it's not exactly a solo staker, but it's as close as you're going to get besides solo staking for 8 ETH. And that's a quarter of what you need. Well, technically 10.4 ETH because you need 2.4 ETH worth of RPL. So let's just call it 10.4 ETH as opposed to 32 ETH, right? Now, obviously, some people are concerned about having exposure to RPL, and maybe they don't want to have exposure there. I kind of get that concern, but at the same time, like when I look at it like this, if the Rocketpool ecosystem grows, right, and RPL actually has utility because you need to stake it with your ETH, and it's also got utility beyond that, and it's got great tokenomics. I'm not trying to shill you on the RPL token here, but I think that you could be holding a lot worse tokens. If you wanted to hold something that wasn't ETH, right, there are a lot of other really bad tokens you could be holding, and I don't consider RPL one of them. I don't even have a big RPL bag, so I'm not shilling here, guys. I've told you guys how much RPL I have, and I haven't added any more, and I don't even stack any through ODAO because I'm donating it all. But I'm just trying to get my point across to people who say, oh, I don't want to hold RPL, is that, like, well, if you want to stake, right, and you want to stake on your own without putting that 8 ETH into Lido, for example, well, that's just a requirement. And of course, you can stake without running your own nodes as well. You can buy RETH, right? You can stake as part of the Rocketpool network. You can buy RETH. And post Atlas, the premium should come down to basically zero, obviously post withdrawals as well. So that should be an entry point for you as well if you're interested in that. But anyway, great little highlight here from SuperFizz. So thanks to him for that. Moving on, Terence from the Off-Chain Labs team shared an EIP 4844 fee market analysis that has been done by David here, and he recommends everyone to read it and think about open problems with 4844. So I'll just link this one in the YouTube description below. But this is a great post here. I really enjoyed reading it. I really enjoyed the analysis here. Obviously, there's still a bunch of things to think through and a bunch of properties that have to be decided on for 4844, like what the fee should be and things like that, what the minimum fee should be and stuff like that, and how it interacts with 1559. And David has done a really great job of detailing all of that. So I'll link that in the YouTube description below for you to check out. And there's also a small thread from Terence discussing it too. And a second tweet that Terence tweeted over the weekend, I think, or maybe yesterday, was that the Arbitrum bridge has reached 1 million ETH. So a pretty great milestone here for Arbitrum. 1 million total ETH has been bridged into the network. And you can see here the number on Etherscan. Now, this is the most ETH bridged into a layer 2 network, I think. I think Arbitrum is definitely the top here, which is obviously really great to see. This is what we want to see happening, right? Funds bridged into these L2s. But just to play devil's advocate a little bit here, it is a little bit scary because Arbitrum obviously is still behind a multi-sig, right? It is still rather centralized, and that ETH is being secured by that rather than being secured by the Ethereum network itself. Where, I mean, then this is where people, I think, get confused, where, yes, the bridge lives on Ethereum, but the bridge has, the whole Arbitrum network has a multi-sig that can, like, upgrade the code. So technically, the bridge is not secured by Ethereum as the ultimate source of security. The ultimate source of security is that multi-sig. Now, if the bridge didn't have a multi-sig and it was literally just there and it had no way to interact with it, it was immutable, then yes, you could say that the bridge was secured by the Ethereum network. But right now, the ultimate sense of security for the Arbitrum bridge, and to be fair, pretty much every L2 bridge and every L2 generally is a multi-sig, and that's totally fine. We saw when Arbitrum announced their token that they have a credible path towards decentralization. So does Optimism. So does pretty much like all the legitimate L2s out there. It's just, it's going to take longer than people would like, of course, but we're going to get there for sure. I believe we're going to get there. But anyway, congrats to Arbitrum on this milestone here. And another post from David, the same person who posted about 4844, was something about a note called MEV Resilient Ethereum. So the TLDR is that in this post, David defines an MEV resiliency framework, reviews current state of the MEV ecosystem and solutions being considered, and proposes 2 related MEV research projects. So if this sounds like something that you're interested in, definitely check it out. But great to see continued research on the MEV problem. I think it's not far-fetched to say that MEV is the biggest existential risk or long-term existential risk for blockchains generally, and I'm talking layer 1s and layer 2s and side chains, whatever. I think it's the biggest existential risk, and that it does not get figured out properly, it does not get handled properly, then it could lead to instability of the entire ecosystem. Now, thankfully, I don't think that's going to be the case. There are a lot of smart people researching MEV. There's already a lot of solutions in place. MEV Boost is one of the big solutions in place to, remove a lot of the negative externalities that can eventuate from MEV, but it is a very difficult problem. It's not impossible to solve, but there are trade-offs with whatever solution that we come up with. So the goal, or at least the end goal, is to come up with a solution that has acceptable trade-offs that people can deal with and the network can deal with, and still leads to the network being secure against a bunch of different incentives that can play out here. But yeah, you can go read David's post. I'll link it in the YouTube description below. All right, just a shout out here. Jesse Polak from the Coinbase team, who's obviously leading the Base L2, said that the Base team will be hosting a Reddit AMA on our Ethereum or on the Ethereum subreddit here. This is actually happening today at 12 p.m. Eastern time. So today being Tuesday, March 21st at 12 p.m. Eastern time. If you want to ask questions, you can go in there and ask them. Of course, this will be linked in the YouTube description. There's a bunch of questions already in there, and depending where you watch this, the AMA may or may not be finished, but you can go check that out, of course, for yourself. It'll be linked in the YouTube description below. And just a note on Base here. Obviously, there was a lot of fanfare around Base when it first announced, and it's been a little bit quiet now because they're not live on mainnet or anything like that. But it's very cool to see them continuing to engage with the community, continuing to build up that rapport, getting developers onboarded, getting apps onboarded, and doing all the stuff that obviously is expected of a new ecosystem. So kudos to Coinbase for doing that. And I noticed before that the Base or the Build on Base Twitter account here already has 123,000 followers, which is crazy because this account was only created, I believe, in February 2023. So literally a month ago, basically when Base was announced, and they're already up to that many followers. It speaks to the attention that Base has. It speaks to the hype it has, of course. There's no token for Base, for the foreseeable future. Maybe one day they'll do a token, but for the foreseeable future, there's no token for Base. So that's pretty promising as well, obviously. And I think that people are just super excited about it because it's going to bring in a lot of new users on-chain that have never touched the on-chain stuff before. And as I was discussing earlier about the Microsoft Edge browser integration, we need to be targeting the people that have never been on chain before. There's people that have been on chain before and they've just left the ecosystem because it may be boring to them now because it's a bear market, right? But I think a lot of them will be back. A lot of them have already used on chain stuff. A lot of them are continuing to use on chain stuff. So we need to get the people who are still around today who maybe aren't on chain, get them involved with things like Base and obviously other Ethereum L2 networks. And then when the bull market returns and we get all these new people coming in, Coinbase is going to funnel them into Base and the other L2s on Ethereum, and they're going to have an amazing experience. I'm really looking forward to the next bull market, not because of the crazy price rises or anything like that, but because it's going to be very different to 2021, where everyone was complaining about Ethereum's high gas fees. That's not going to be an issue anymore, especially in a post-EIP 4844 world. These L2s are where all the users are going to be pushed to, and they're going to have an amazing experience, and it's all going to be Ethereum. So I'm very much looking forward to that, of course. It's one of the things I'm most looking forward to, actually. But that's going to happen probably next year at this point. At least that's what I guess like the general consensus or the expectation is that the market will heat up properly next year. But who knows, right? And as I said before, I think that Ethereum has kind of transcended these bull and bear markets. And we're onboarding people all the time anyway, just by just building better technology and better apps, and obviously having more scalability here. So that's obviously great to see. But anyway, you can check out this AMA. I'll link it in the YouTube description below for you to do so. All right, so Immutable had been teasing a major partnership over the last few days, and today it was announced. So this partnership is with Polygon Labs, obviously the team behind Polygon. So what Immutable is going to be doing is that they're going to be building or deploying their own zkEVM powered by Polygon's technology. This is pretty huge because traditionally Immutable has been using Starkware's platform for their gaming, for their NFT stuff. They're still using that. That's not going away. But now they're going to be deploying their own zkEVM built on Polygon's technology and going to be focusing on kind of cross roll-up NFTs and crypto gaming and all the stuff like that. So I thought this was a pretty big announcement, especially because these are two powerhouses here, Polygon and Immutable. I should disclose that I'm involved with both of them. Immutable, I'm an investor. Polygon, I'm an advisor. But I've obviously been very impressed by the stuff that both of these projects have been doing over the past couple of years. Immutable has been kicking a lot of goals on the gaming front. Polygon obviously needs no explanation about the goals that they've been kicking. And the fact that they're teaming up and the fact that Immutable is launching their own zkEVM powered by Polygon's technology is a huge vote of confidence, obviously, for Polygon's technology, and I think is going to be a huge boost to what Immutable is trying to do with onboarding people into crypto gaming and obviously expanding the world of gaming-related NFTs and stuff like that. So congrats to both of these teams on the partnership. I'm sure this isn't the last we've heard from them. There's probably going to be a lot of big news and big stuff coming out of them as time goes on. All right. So Seb, one of the co-founders of Zapper, has teased that every single transaction on Ethereum will be surfaced in a human-readable way on Zapper. So you can see this little teaser video here that basically shows you a feed of what's been going on different people's profiles or the people that you're following in a human readable way. So you can see that it shows you basically that this person flash wrecked, minted a Sea of Redemption NFT, and it shows you the gas price that they paid here, rather than just showing you, I guess, something like what Etherscan shows you, just a bunch of text, right? It actually shows you the NFT. You can see here, it also shows you when a user does something like unwrapping ETH, canceling an order on OpenSea, or sending USDC to an address. So this is really cool. This is something that I discussed about the Uniswap wallet and about just wallets generally, how they need to make things human readable, obviously, before we can kind of get any kind of mass adoption here. We need to basically abstract away all the confusing bits, all the scary bits, so that users can get a great human readable experience that they're used to, which is going to happen over time. And as I said, wallets and interfaces like Zapper are going to be doing this, as time goes on. They're going to be focusing on this. And as Seb said here, this will be available on mobile and web soon. All right, so a couple of updates on that Euler exploit that we saw, I believe it was last week. So there was a return of some of the funds. So $5.4 million in ETH, or 3,000 ETH, was returned on, I believe, March 18th here. So that's about 3 days ago now. As far as I know, no additional funds have been returned to date, and that is $5.4 million is only a tiny portion of the funds, but it's great to see some that have been returned. And I did say there's a couple of updates about this. Well, just today, you can see David Hoffman shared that there was a new message from the Euler finance exploiter, and the message reads, "We want to make this easy on all those affected. No intention of keeping what is not ours. Setting up secure communication. Let us come to an agreement." This is weird. I mean, this whole exploit has been really weird because, as I've mentioned before, the exploiter has washed funds through Tornado, has sent funds randomly to people who had messaged them, have sent funds to the Lazarus group, which is the North Korean hacking group, and has sent funds back to the Euler, the Euler deploy, so the official Euler contracts. So it kind of feels like they did this exploit and then they've had second guess about it and they don't know what to do with the money. And now they're like, oh, wow, okay, let's just return the money. Maybe someone's closing in on them. Maybe they were found out. Maybe they're really scared now. Maybe they had a group that fell apart and they've all just kind of gone their separate ways and said, you just return the funds. This was a bad idea. Who knows? But this whole exploit has been really weird. Now, obviously, I'm rooting for most of the funds. It can't be all the funds to be returned because obviously not all of the funds are available to the hacker anymore because they sent some, to other people. They washed some, and they sent some to the Lazarus group, which was very stupid on their behalf, but they did it. So I'm hoping that the remainder of the funds, it gets returned because I'm hoping that users get to be made whole, and I'm hoping that Euler can just put this behind them and continue developing the great technology that they've been developing. But as I said, this is by far the weirdest exploit that I think I've seen in crypto, just because of the actions that the exploiter has taken. Usually what you'll see is that either all the funds get returned shortly after the hack happens, or they get washed through Tornado Cash and that's it. You don't see this weird stuff that the Euler exploiter has been doing, which screams to me that they're amateurs. It screams to me that they, as I said, don't know what they're doing. And now with this new message, it seems that they are willing to return the funds for one reason or another. Maybe, as I said, because they are scared of getting caught. I don't know. But that's the current status of it. I really hope all the funds get returned, and I hope for anyone listening that lost funds in Euler, for your sake, they get returned as well. But I'll keep you guys updated on that. All right, last up here is a bit of a discussion around a tweet that I put out yesterday where I said, creating a better money is not enough. We need to create a better financial system that serves everyone in a fair, transparent, and decentralized way. That's Ethereum. So there's always these debates, right, on crypto Twitter, I guess, and just generally about what is a good money in crypto, or what is the best money in crypto. Now, of course, a lot of people will say BTC. I'll obviously say ETH, and a lot of Ethereans will say ETH. But the point of this tweet is that creating a better money is nowhere near enough. It doesn't matter that you've created a better, for Bitcoin, for example, it doesn't matter that they've created a better money in BTC if you can't actually use that as part of a decentralized financial system, right? Without going through centralized intermediaries, such as centralized exchanges or bridging across to Ethereum, which is done in a centralized way, like with wrapped Bitcoin. So this has been kind of my whole thing about Ethereum, is that ETH is amazing money, and Ethereum is a platform where you can build a truly decentralized, open, fair, transparent, all that good stuff financial system that can take advantage of that money. Because money and kind of like payments is literally just one use case of a financial system. And yes, okay, it's a big use case, obviously, but it is not the only one. And honestly, I don't ever really foresee BTC or even ETH being used at scale for payments. Yes, they are considered money, and that's fine, but I don't consider them being used for everyday payments. I consider them to be more of a commodity money, a store of value, whereas things like stablecoins, right, act really, really well as money. And I think that we can make better stablecoins as time goes on, and that aren't necessarily pegged to fiat. It could be pegged to something else, right? But those sorts of things can't be built on Bitcoin, but they can be built on Ethereum. So that was the whole point of my tweet, is that like it's all well and good to build a better money, to create a better money, but if all you can do with it is payments, it's not enough. It doesn't service the world. It doesn't service most use cases out there, and that's why Ethereum is building out a fully decentralized financial system, or I guess a parallel financial system, because not all of it will be decentralized, but it is digitized. And that's another point that I think that has kind of been the talk of the town the last couple of weeks, especially in the face of all this banking crisis. It really seems that we're at a pivotal point where the traditional finance system, or at least the digital age, has caught up with the traditional finance system, has caught up with the fiat system, has caught up with the Federal Reserve system, has caught up with fractional banking, and basically showed that in the digital world, these things are not necessarily compatible for a number of different reasons. And I think a big reason is the communication, because bank runs are a lot easier to trigger now, as I mentioned on a previous refuel, because information is much easier to disseminate. How many people heard about Silicon Valley Bank instantly over the weekend? Probably tens, if not hundreds of millions of people heard about that over one weekend and heard about the problems there. And how many people have heard about the problems at other banks, right? And these things trigger bank runs. And that's why all these kind of central banks have stepped in and said they're going to guarantee liquidity, because they see that there are a lot of people trying to withdraw funds. Obviously, in a fractional reserve banking system, that's not possible, at least over the short term. And obviously, a lot of those funds was invested into things that are now underwater due to interest rates going up. So when you're in that world, it is very hard for this traditional system that was not built for the digital world, that was built like 100, 150 years ago, to cope with that. So we're building a better world within crypto. We're building better money like BTC and ETH, but we're building a better financial system, whether it's decentralized or centralized, it doesn't matter. It's still a better financial system that is actually fit for purpose for the digital age. And that's what I'm here for. That's what I'm here to build, right? Obviously not just finance, there's a lot of other applications, but finance to me is the biggest application. I'm here to see Ethereum become that, credibly neutral, all that good stuff, censorship resistance. That's all the stuff that a digitized, modern financial system needs, and that's what Ethereum is doing. No other platform out there is doing this. I know there are other smart contract platforms out there, obviously, but they are not doing what Ethereum is doing in my eyes. They are not decentralized, right? They are not credibly neutral. They are not as robust, resilient, and secure as Ethereum. Nowhere near as robust, resilient, and secure as Ethereum. Maybe one day they will be, but right now they're not. And I don't see a credible path for most of them to get to that point. So for me, it's Ethereum. People can call me an ETH maxi for that. I don't really care. But as I said, my overall point is that we need more than a better money. We need a better financial system. And on that note, that's going to be it for today. So thank you everyone for listening and watching. Be sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. Give the video a thumbs up, subscribe to the newsletter, join the Discord channel, and I'll catch you all tomorrow. Thanks everyone.